Hey guys, welcome to the Xplor Show. This is our first actually live in-person podcast. I'm pretty excited. Here today with my friend and fraternity brother, Elliot Ivory. Elliot actually opened a brewery here in Kansas City about a month or two ago, I think. And Elliot, welcome to the show.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure. Tell us a little bit about Vine Street Brewing.
Yeah, so Vine Street Brewing is Missouri's first black-owned brewery located in Kansas City, Missouri in the 18th and Vine district. So we're specifically off of 20th and Vine. We have a 7-barrel brew house where we're brewing mostly American-style ales, some Belgian beers as well. The whole mission is that we're trying to introduce beer into a new demographic as well as combine music and beer to create an experience down here.
Okay, and so Kansas City, guys, where they're at is known as the Jazz District here at 18th and Vine, correct?
Correct.
And that's they're going with that vibe is essentially what he's saying there. What motivated you to get into brewing beer? What excites you about that?
Yeah, so for me personally, actually, funny story. So this is how it kind of all started out. I have a degree in plastics engineering technology. My first job was at Honeywell here in Kansas City. And so I was working for about a year, and I had a manager. He told me, hey, you need to find a hobby so when you retire, you got something to do. And that's
a good problem.
I was just kind of looking at it. I was like, man, retirement, I don't even know what I'm doing. I was
25 years old.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not thinking about that. And so I picked up, through another fraternity brother, he kind of introduced Logan Greeter. He introduced me to craft beer. And we started drinking craft beer. And then I was just fascinated. I'm always wondering how things work, how things are made. And beer, I was curious how it was made. So Logan and I, we started brewing beer together. We went to the homebrew store, got a kit, made a first batch of beer. It was a porter. That beer was the worst beer I've ever tasted. That thing was disgusting, but we just kept going. I don't know, like the fascination. It was a good time, mainly because we were drinking beers, hanging out. It was like 4 hours of just
bros
hanging out,
being bros.
Yeah, and so and then just from there, it just kept growing. The curiosity just kept growing. We got into different beer styles. We started drinking different beer styles, and we're like, how do we make this? How do they do this? How do they get these flavors into this beverage, like into this liquid? How do you get so many? Because there's so many beer styles. How do you just have so many different beers really off the same process? So it just kept going, kept exploring, and that's why I'm here now.
It's a good buzzword, exploring.
Yeah.
Here we are, the Xplor Show, right? So you started it right after college then, and you guys were just doing this as a hobby on the weekends, correct?
Yeah. We were just doing it as a hobby. We made a little like fake moniker company called Whiz Brewing. Yeah, and so we were serving at festivals, we were competing in homebrew competitions and things like that, but just doing it for fun, something to fill the time, just something else to think about besides work.
Yeah.
Just to keep us busy. So yeah, that's really what we did, and we really, didn't even think about this as a career until actually through homebrew festivals. I met Woodie at Nano Brew Fest in 2018, 2019, can't remember which year. But he had just won a medal. And I was just like, it was kind of cool because I was like, well, you don't see that many black people in the brewing community. You don't see that many black homebrewers. I was like, well, that's cool. You won a medal. I was like, oh man. And so I met him there.
This guy.
Yeah, no, for real. I was like, this dude's talented. And so I met him there. And then fast forward 3 years later, so 2021, he approached me. He's like, hey, do you want to start a brewery? I told him straight up, I was like, nah. I was like, nah. I didn't say
kids, I got a wife, I got a family,
all that. And then I was getting ready to start grad school too. So actually I was getting ready to start grad school. I was going to go get back and get my master's in engineering management. I wanted to be a technical manager at Honeywell, manage engineers or whatever. And so I had other aspirations within Honeywell to just do that.
Climb the ladder.
Yeah, I thought that was the move. For me. However, I don't know, I told my wife, Hannah, and she was like, well, you need to at least see it out.
Try it.
She's like, just hear them out. And I was like, all right. So I did. We went through, the situation was good, right? It was from a financial risk. It was like low risk at the time. And it looked to be, it's actually a really good opportunity. But we hadn't, at this point when we were talking about it, hadn't settled on a location, hadn't even settled on what you see today.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't yet created. So we're all just kind of like, Woodie loves beer, I love beer, and then our other partner, Kemet, he loves beer. It's like we just want to do something together. And so went through a couple different locations. They had one location that they owned a building off of 39th Street in Indiana. And, if that was the location, I was definitely out. I was going to tell him no. I was like, nah. But Kemet was like, well, I got one other place. He had a mutual friend who owns these buildings. He had a mutual friend. And when we saw these buildings, I mean, it wasn't what you saw today.
No, they were very
Ruins.
neglected. The old Kansas City water department is the building you guys are in today, and this place was scary.
Street department.
Street department, I apologize.
Yeah, you're good.
These were neglected for the last 20, 30 years at least.
Oh, yeah, definitely by then.
They were
definitely
scary.
that long. And so he brought us down to this space. He's like, it's an 18th and Vine. He brought us down to the space, and I don't know, something about this building. It's a little magical because I saw it and I was like, yeah, we can make this work. I was in. At that point, I was like sold. I was in.
Wow.
I was like, and it just had a roof, windows, and that's it. So
And not all the windows were there either, I don't think. There were a lot of broken windows.
By the time we got into it, the landlords had to do a lot of work. So the landlords have been working on the building for like 7 years. We got in the project on year 5, and then 2 years, we have what we have today. So that's kind of like the big timeline of everything. But
Well, the real estate piece turned out fabulous. I mean, you guys did awesome in here. The developer, the real estate, the people that own it, awesome job. I mean, this building is beautiful.
oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, you guys get a lot of compliments on it, I'm sure.
Definitely the architect. I mean, a lot of compliments on the architect, and then a lot of compliments on just like how we pieced and did all the decoration. And
All
how
the
it ties
art
in.
really
Yeah.
vibes in this area, right? It's the jazz district, but Kansas City is also known for art, as we all
Right,
know. And
right.
they have art around this place. It's just awesome. And all local artists.
All local art. So right now, most of our art is by Warren Harvey, and then we have some painted tables upstairs that were done by Jesse Green, but all local artists.
Awesome. So being an entrepreneur, let's talk a little bit about that. So you and Woodie and Kemet decided, hey, let's go ahead and do this thing. We're going to take this building down. What happened next? I know it took you guys a little while to kind of really get up and running.
Yeah. I mean, so really how it all worked, I mean, we were just, first of all, we were looking for the location, right? We were looking for that. And then we were looking for a funding source too. So we have a silent partner who helped us fund a lot lot
They didn't call me, guys. I don't know why.
Yeah. And, next time, right? The expansion.
Yeah.
And so provided a lot of financial, because he's more financial savvy. So it helped us with a lot of financial advice, things like that. Got an SBA loan for that. And then for our equipment, how we're financing that, it's a lease to own situation for that.
Got it.
So like when I said earlier about our risk, that's what I'm talking about. That initial, charge of capital, like you generally need to start a business, was mitigated by some of these other opportunities. Now we have a higher month-to-month operating costs, but you give and take, right? And for us, it was the smartest plan to get it up and running without causing a huge shock to all our families, because we all have families. Kemet's got 3 kids, Woodie's got a kid,
wow.
It's not like it would. Yeah, so definitely different situations, and so that's how we structured it to make it work for us.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit more. So you guys found the building in 2021.
Right? Yeah.
You opened in 2023.
Yeah.
What was that process in between the year and a half-ish time, 2 years that it took to get running?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. We're actually forming the LLC, forming the business. We're trying to go through roles and responsibilities of what Kemet, Woodie, and I are specifically going to be in charge of, and understand how we're going to structure the business.
That's one key thing, I think, and sorry to interrupt you. People don't realize when you're getting into a partnership, especially, it's very important to have those roles and responsibilities of, hey, here's what your roles are. Obviously, we're all doing everything.
Yeah.
Like, this is your specific thing you need to take charge with and run. Because if you don't have that, you end up kind of butting heads, or it causes animosity that you really don't want when you're starting out.
Right. And the other important things you are going to do, but then also things you are not going to do.
Yeah.
That's like a clear thing that, like, I think oftentimes we talk about things that we are going to do, but it's like, you have to draw that line. Like, I'm not going to do that. I don't have the expertise for that, or I'm not the best person for that. And so then you look at like, well, if this is a critical function and then we're not going to do it, well, how are we going to fill that? How are we going to fill it? Do we need to hire for that? Do we need to, what is the option?
Yep.
Or does someone need to grow in that manner? So those are things that we kind of all work through those 2 years. And it's a constant, as a business change, we're constantly readdressing how we, provide an experience to our customers, but also on our side for management, how do we manage all that? So we're going through all that, building the concept, building Vine Street Brewing. We got linked up. So Kemet got linked up with Whiskey Design. And so that's how you see all of our, Whiskey Design does all of our branding.
Oh, okay. Your guys' branding is awesome.
And so we went heavy into the branding for sure, just because, I mean, I think you can kind of just see from our branding, but it really does help elevate a business.
Yes.
In that manner.
I mean, you guys started marketing and putting stuff out there a year ago or 6 months. I mean, it's been a while.
Man, definitely a year. So we've been doing, when we talk about all the marketing, branding, what we're doing, we got all the artwork, the branding, the entity established through the branding, but then we were doing collaborations through Kansas City, and we've been brewing with breweries all over the city. So we did like 20 plus different collaborations, just getting our name out there, introducing ourselves, and then meeting people in the industry, and that we've created relationships through that. I mean, so we were networking, marketing, branding heavy, and we're still, the collaborations weren't a gimmick for us. They're really part of our identity.
Absolutely.
One of our core pillars. And so we got collaborations lined up already, being a month open, we've already talking about collaborations like Casey Library. We got Crane Brewing Company.
Wow.
So
the 2 year period, you guys just really said, okay, we're going to focus on branding, collaboration, networking, getting out and building this community of brewers or people like-minded in the business that we can partner with and help us get our name out there, get our product out there, but also help them in different ways that they might need help.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the coolest collaborations from introducing beer, we did one with Transport, and we brewed our black lager there at Transport, which is Jazzman today. Okay. We did that collaboration at Transport Brewing Company, but had a lot, one of the brewers at Transport was like, well, this is the most diverse our tap room's ever been. We had an event for it, really brought people in, and, they loved it, right? So another lifelong brewing friend that we created there. And so, that was our focus. And that's how what we thought since we're waiting on the construction of the building and all that, that's what we thought was the smartest use of our time.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, and tell me if I'm wrong, but people that aren't necessarily they don't own businesses and are entrepreneurs, they think that it's always a competition. Like, hey, these people are competing against each other, so they're not going to help each other. When really it's the complete opposite. Some of the highest minded, most friendly people I've met in real estate and other businesses is people that are helping me or I'll go help them. We all kind of open up, network, and help each other. It's like a big family almost. Like, yes, there are some people that are bad players, but for the most part, people are willing to help each other out and get each other's businesses going. And when that starts vibing, things really start happening.
Yeah. I mean, definitely in the beer community, it's like that iron sharpens iron mentality.
Yes.
No one's really holding because we were like, well, what's your secret recipe in the beer? It's like, I'll give you the recipe. Straight up, I will give you the recipe.
I'll be taking that home.
You can have it for sure. There's no secrets because ultimately, all the brewers from a Kansas City perspective, we want all the local beer to be excellent beer, right?
So obviously, help each other out.
Exactly. I mean, you obviously have. There's some people who make phenomenal beer, right? Phenomenal beer in this city. But overall, when we want someone from out of town to come into Kansas City, we want them to go to any local brewery and we want them to drink a really great beer.
Yep.
And I think any brewer across the city, brewery owner across the city would definitely agree. They're just like, drink if you're going to come here, drink local beer, and then we're going to make sure it's delicious.
And we'd love you to drink ours, but there's also others out here that we support and we respect, and theirs is going to be great too. It might just be a little bit different, right?
Exactly. Different. We're providing a different vibe here. Also different beers as well. But yeah, the brewing community is just that iron sharpens iron, Everyone wants to elevate each other. So instead of like crabs in a barrel, everyone's sitting there building each other up to do that.
And there's always one or two players that might not be that way.
Right.
But that's okay. You're going to have that in any industry or anything that you do.
Right.
It's live.
Right.
What's been the biggest challenge to date for you guys?
Biggest challenge, there's a couple challenges. So our site logistics aren't completely done. That's kind of been a hassle. How do you that's one thing that was maybe neglected. When we were going through the production of oh wait, how do I physically move all my materials from transportation in here?
You were just so excited to get here, get going. You didn't think about that.
Did not. Didn't emphasize that as much in the build out. And
and just to explain that, guys, so their building is again here at 18th and Vine, where they brew the beer is downstairs, and they also serve downstairs, but they have a whole upstairs. But there's no road coming around the backside of it where all the brewing is, so they have to kind of haul in a lot of manual labor.
Yeah. So good thing I'm young right now. Good thing I'm young, it will last, but that's kind of, I think that's one of the challenges.
Lesson, though, right?
It definitely is, if we talk about a different site, I'll definitely be looking at those logistics a lot heavier.
Yeah.
Very important. Because this, when you talk about using your time wisely, it's just not efficient use of time.
No.
Creates a long day, unfortunately.
A lot of manual labor, which causes additional problems sometimes.
Yeah.
People get hurt or can't do it.
It's extra risk for sure.
Yes.
So that's one thing that we're kind of on the production side struggling with. I think, honestly, on the other side, obviously, you know, we're looking through our operating costs too, constantly looking at that. So that's just kind of been a day to day. I'm not sure if it's a struggle or if it's just new startup feel, you know, when you're just like, you start it up, but then you realize like, oh man, there's another cost, or oh, this broke, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that was going to break so fast, you know. And then
everybody thinks you're just bringing in all this money, and it's like, yeah, the reality is we're spending every penny we make right now fixing or just keeping things operating. Let's talk about the real estate piece. So we said earlier, you know, crazy, amazing building that they're in. It turned out awesome, right? How hard was it to get this building done, though? Because, guys, just to put it out there, Kansas City has been difficult. Everybody knows across the country, development, redevelopment, construction, labor shortages, material price increases. I mean, they were going through this at the heat of all of that, 2021, 2022, 2023. So what was that process like? Because I know it was a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah, so I won't proclaim that I'm the expert on the situation, but just from being the customer, because we lease this space, and so being the customer leasing the space, we were involved in kind of the construction build out from the beginning because we knew they were going to put the brewery in here. I mean, so materials costs definitely hit, and so that cost some overspending on the project for sure. And then you have constant kind of the labor shortages, trying to find labor. That also caused delays as well. And then I think cities changed some of their processes midway through COVID as well, and they came back.
He's saying it nicely.
Yeah. And so there was some process changes that caused delays within the approvals of that our landlord and architects that they were kind of dealing with. And so I don't think there was just one thing. It's just multiple cards stacking up, and it creates this
bottleneck.
6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 1 year delay. It just...
Well, and you were dealing with a lot more than that. So you probably weren't actually dealing with it, but I'm sure the developer and owner of the building, historic tax credits, all these additional things that they had to go through, which all just take a lot of time. And if one little thing, one little detail is missed or forgot, or maybe it's there and somebody else at the city might miss it, it just delays everything.
We also did... Big one was and this is, like I said, multiple cards stacking up, but a big one was the structural steel. So they came back, the inspector came back, was like, oh, actually all the steel needs to be reinforced. And so that was a pretty large delay that was also not anticipated. So, you know, like I said, landlord, you know, our landlord developer is the one really dealing with that.
He's a sharp guy.
He is. But from a customer standpoint, that's just... it hit us kind of tough.
And it was your first time. So nothing you could really do, probably. Nothing he could really do, because it was just all these things added up, and it just delayed. But, hey, it turned out awesome. So.
It did, hindsight, it's all behind us. We're moving forward, and, definitely it's working out really well for us.
That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about the brewing process then. So we were talking a little bit ago. You guys are right now, how much are you brewing a week?
So we brew roughly right now once a week. So in the beginning, we batched all of our beer. We also did some contract brews prior to opening.
Contract brews, you had other people brewing?
Yeah, we had other people brew our beer. And actually in our distribution beer, because it just kind of makes sense for our business, that we have someone else contracting. We contract that our Jazzman with Walnut River. It just makes the most sense for us. You'll find that a lot of Black-owned brands around the country, they do that kind of work. And that's what they do to kind of get their beer out in the market. They exclusively contract brew.
Oh, really?
Exclusively do that. So there's other Black-owned brands in America, Black-owned breweries in America, as we know, but there's quite a few that do some contract brewing just to get that started up, because not all of them have that brick and mortar.
It's expensive.
It is. It's pricey. Like I said, you
guys had the city and everybody behind you really helping, though.
We were fortunate. I mean, I will say that we were fortunate at that time, and I think that sometimes this is the right place at the right time. I think you could also credit definitely Kemet's kind of networking skills and things like that.
I've never met Kemet in person, but I've heard and through other people all about him. That man is a networking pro.
Yeah,
he was at the White House, you guys. Yeah. He literally was at the White House a couple months ago, right?
About 3-4 months ago. He's known as the Renaissance Man, creative director of Kansas City.
Never seen him here, but he was at the White House. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I haven't only been here twice. So.
That's you missed him. He was here yesterday. So that's kind of. So that's how often we're brewing. To get back to your question, we brew once a week. We're 7-barrel batches. So that's we yield about 200-ish gallons.
Okay.
When you talk about loss and going through all that.
Well, let's talk about that. How much You say 200 gallons. How much does it take to make 200 gallons roughly when you're talking about water and production and time is a week, but how much water are we talking about?
Right. We start out heating up about like 400 gallons of water. We'll actually use into the beer about anywhere from 320 to 350 gallons worth of water.
Okay.
And then as we go through all our processes, we boil that water down, so we get lost there.
How much grain and everything else? Sorry, I want to know the process.
Oh, yeah. So we're like
400 gallons of water. Then you put what in the water and how much material?
Yeah. So then we'll say, so it's a wide, since we're a high mix manufacturing, so it's hard to average all the numbers, but we'll say roughly about like 600 pounds of grain. And then
in one batch?
In one batch.
Woo!
Yeah, 600 pounds of grain.
That's a lot of hauling grain down to this basement here.
Yeah. And then we have some smaller beers where we're like around the 300, 400, but we're rough. I could say 500, 600 pounds of grain. And then we talk about hop usage. Actually, we don't brew a ton of hoppy beers, but we're roughly on average around that, like 5 pounds. Oh, sorry, not to be like super specific
good.
Because it's just high mix. I mean,
I'm just
some
trying to
beers were like
understand the process and what all goes into it.
Yeah.
So 400 gallons of water,
roughly, yeah.
500 to 600 pounds of grain.
Right.
That's one heavy machine you got over there then. So 1,000, well, way more than 1,000 pounds because 400 gallons is going to weigh way more than that. But okay.
Oh, yeah.
And then about 5 pounds of hops.
Roughly, like a non-hoppy style beer, kind of what we're drinking right now, like cream ale. So
that's a lot of material in one product.
It is a lot of material in product, and then really the most expensive is the hops. The hops are pricey, but
how they've gone way up the last couple of years, haven't they?
Constantly. I mean, grain prices have increased. We haven't really seen that because we kind of got into the scene when they're already high. By talking to other brewers, their costs have gone up. So ultimately, that gets passed on to the consumer.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so we've got that, and then when you're talking about that, we yield that all into the fermenter, but then we have losses as we transfer beers all throughout because the yeast absorbs some of the product, and then we don't want to transfer that. We want to, from a quality perspective, we want to dump that off, transfer off clean beer. The hops, if you're dry hopping, that absorbs beer. So you lose in those hoppy beers. You want that flavor, you want that style, you want that what the consumer expects, but that dries up. You're losing product you can sell, and then you're adding more money into it.
Yep.
So there's loss there and all that. It's a balancing act for sure to figure out what you price your beer at, so the customer perceives it to be special and correctly priced, versus like just overcharging the customer. Be like, well, I put a bunch of hops, and they're like, well, this does not taste fancy enough to be this price. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And people look at that beer anyway like that. They're like, it's just beer. It shouldn't be that expensive, especially when you have like huge conglomerates like, SAB Miller, AB InBev. They can produce
a lot
more, a lot cheaper. They're getting the best ingredient because of their volume.
Oh, yeah. So I've been to one of their manufacturing facilities. It is impressive.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome, So being able to try to manage that expectation with the customer to be like, well, we're a craft brewery, we're small, so we kind of get some of our ingredients at a higher price, but we're very connected to the beer, right? And I think that's why it's important to shop local. I think it's important to shop local anything because you really generally get to meet the person who's making your beer, right? I've met tons of my customers who have been come in the brew house quite a bit in the tap room, meet people, and so we want to make that community connection. And I think it's about the liquid, but I think this is the means to make the community connection.
That's awesome. What's your guys' vision going forward?
Yeah, I mean, going forward, so what we're looking at right now, we definitely want to, so short term, we're definitely trying to get our cans to go, try to open up our revenue sources, try to get multiple revenue sources in that manner. That's why we also try to get our event space booking so we can bring other organizations into the space.
Make them familiar with your product. That's genius.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's kind of what we're looking at right now. I think long term, what we're looking at some expansion. We're looking at expanding our fermentation space. We're trying to add a couple more fermenters. I think eventually, once we can add some fermenters that we can dedicate to like non-gluten products, we'd like to manufacture like our own cider and things like that here. Maybe not a gluten-free beer, just because that's just haven't wrapped my head around it. And
what is that? Explain that to me. What is a gluten-free beer? What is the difference?
Yeah, so usually and I'm not an expert in this either, but from what I've dabbled in it a little bit at home, they use a different grain. Usually they use like sorghum. So it's not a barley-based malt. So they'll use like sorghum or rice or something in that manner. And then they use enzymes to be able to break down that grain so you can actually ferment it.
Okay.
So there's
that's
a little
really
bit more extra processing.
But it's not that much different product. It's just different process and a little bit of different product.
The product is I would say the product is mostly different and the process is probably identical.
Okay, so backwards.
I just don't want to, when we talk about, we have our small brew house, like to mix in the gluten with non-gluten, the gluten's hard to get off your equipment.
Yes.
We just
and that's why you guys, and you were telling us when we were upstairs looking at it, you have a couple of ciders and you said we will never run anything through these two tabs that has any gluten in it because we want to make sure that we don't get the gluten in there. Correct.
Right. Correct.
In case there are any ultra sensitive people that might come in.
Right.
That's awesome. I mean, it seems like there's a lot more gluten intolerance now, maybe because it's kind of popular or people are realizing it's a thing. I don't know, but there's a ton of it that we hear about today.
For sure. I think people are more aware now. And so we, as a brewery entity, we need to be aware. Some people can manage their gluten. So, they'll go out and they're like, I'm going to drink craft beer. If I'm going to drink beer, I'm going to drink craft beer. But for those who, are really sensitive, we want to be able to provide a product because we preach inclusivity, but we also need to do that inclusivity with our beverages as well.
Yep. So. No, I love that. So going forward, you're hoping to maybe expand a little bit in the production world.
We are. Yep.
Find some more streams of revenue. You just bought a canning machine.
Yeah.
It's not in production yet.
Not in production yet.
But the goal is to start canning, to sell out of this operation right here, correct?
Yeah, we're strictly looking at selling those cans to go. And that's just because when we look at that taproom model, that's why you start to see more taprooms because it's more profitable than the distribution model that you saw back in the 90s. Yeah. I mean, we weren't drinking. I wasn't drinking. You weren't drinking in the 90s.
Well.
But that craft beer, there was a heavy distribution model in the 90s. And that was the move, production breweries and all that. We're starting to see that really shift. And I think Treehouse is one of the more notable ones. They're up kind of they're a Northeast brewery. And they're the
Northeast of the country?
Northeast of the country, okay. Yeah. So their model is like they didn't ship their IPAs like 100 miles outside the radius. But then from that, because they wanted to serve the freshest beer possible.
Oh, okay.
And from that, they opened multiple locations to be able to do that. And so they're doing the multiple tap room. And so you're starting to see that. I mean, you see that with Martin City. They have like 6, 7 locations.
Hey, shout out to them, though. My high school teacher.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, personal finance, I believe.
Yeah.
They are crushing it. And in Kansas City, at least. But I've seen their beer in Colorado, I believe.
Yeah, I mean.
Maybe even in California, I saw it once.
Okay.
The Martin City Hideaway, if you like a hoppy beer, you've got to try the Martin City Hideaway. I think it's the best hoppy beer there is, personally.
Right on. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You guys don't do many hoppy beers, so
we don't. No, we don't do many hoppy beers here. But I mean, so that's what you're seeing. So when you talk about the actual draft sales and then like cans to go, that's actually the move for the small breweries, being those neighborhood breweries, being able to maximize on their profits because, the expectation and that model has already been created by some of these other breweries. Even in Kansas City, when you talk about, you look at the BKS alma mater, you look at their beers to go.
Yeah, they crush it.
They do very well on their beers to go.
There's a line around the street.
Oh, yeah.
What is it, Thursday, Friday? They open up to sell the cans, and that's it?
Yeah. Not anymore. So they've expanded their to-go options. But, I mean, they got a whole wall of to-go options.
It's awesome.
Because the model is working well for them. So
it's a good product too. They make a good beer.
Oh, their product is delicious.
Right by my house.
You're lucky. That's a good neighborhood brewery.
Oh, it is. It's an awesome spot. And then you have just across the street. There's another one there. I can't think of it now, but there's a couple of them down there in Brookside area. What's your favorite beer to brew? Your personal favorite, and is it because of the process or because of the taste?
Personal favorite beer to brew, I actually really like brewing IPA because of the process. You just get to add all these hops and different points of the beer. You're adding like just all throughout the beer. Personal favorite beer, like to drink with like ambers and browns. I like that multi-back.
Now let me get some history real quick. Elliot didn't drink beer in college, guys, so don't let him act like he's been drinking beer forever. This man started drinking beer after college.
Yeah, that's true.
Now he's a professional.
So yeah, ambers and browns. To drink, for sure. I like the multi-backbone. They're balanced. They're not too distracting. So if you're, hanging out with a friend, it's just a solid beer, but it doesn't take away from conversation. So.
You get too full off of them or what? Like they always seem, the darker beers always fill me up.
I don't think, no.
He's like, nah, you're a sissy. All right. I got it. All right. No, well, I appreciate it. Vine Street Brewing is a beautiful spot. You guys are doing some really cool stuff. Really looking forward to seeing how you guys continue to expand. I mean, you guys opened about a month ago, is that right?
Yeah, we're approaching like that 2 month, about 2 month range. Yeah. So yeah.
And in the month or 2 months that you've been open, business has been pretty good.
Business has been really good. Yeah, we've been very fortunate. You know, our bet to do all those collaborations and this heavy marketing, our heavy marketing push in the 2 years where we're open, we feel like that's really paid off. We are seeing, you know, those revenue streams through, those people come through. So it's great. I mean,
Yeah, I've been in here a few times and it's packed every time. I can't find a table even. Drives me insane.
well, we're working on getting more tables too. Come on, man. These are hand built tables. Okay, these are hand built tables.
No, all the tables upstairs are beautiful. They have art all over them. So, and that was all the same artist?
That's done by Jesse Green, actually.
Jesse Green.
Yeah.
Okay. Shout out Jesse Green.
And then I'll just plug my dad here. So the tables built downstairs, the tables that are downstairs are built by my dad and myself. So
Okay, Mr. Ivory.
That's right.
See you out here.
And then all black owned lumber yards. So all the woods from Eastside Lumber down the street as well. Black owned lumber yards. So we really tried to be intentional for kind of like how we're operating as well.
Keep it in house.
Yeah.
And just keep it local, you know, in Kansas City in general if you can. I mean, it supports not only those local businesses, the entire economy. People don't understand how that whole flow works. If you keep the money enter in Kansas City, no matter who or how, it just keeps circling within Kansas City for the most part.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we try to do that from even our brewing process is like, I know we talked earlier, our spent grain, we give it to Blue Ophelia Farms, which is down the street. So we're trying to keep it as local as possible. We're using like a local trucking company when we can. So we're really trying to, like you said, keep the money in Kansas City. The collaborations, right? All Kansas City breweries that we're really focusing on.
Well, I know a guy that owns some real estate around Kansas City.
Yeah.
So whenever you're ready to expand, you should give him a shout.
Yeah.
You're looking at it.
Okay. I figured. Like I said, we'll keep it all in Kansas City. Yeah.
That's right. Family. Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anything else you would like? Where can people find you guys? Where can they follow you? Kind of follow your story.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so we're on every platform of social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
Are you making videos?
Nah, man. We just, I don't think, nah. We have a TikTok. I'm not sure what Kemet's putting up on there right now, but YouTube as
president.
Well, that would be dope. I mean, he needs to, for sure. Well, he meant VP. He meant Kamala. I'm not sure if he meant the president. He meant Kamala.
Good enough.
VP.
He was still at the wine.
Yeah, he was. So just Vine, ST Brewing on all those social media platforms. Okay. And then check our website out at .com, where you can buy merch online, as well as see our updated tap lists. We keep our tap list updated online, so you can see that.
How often do you change that?
We release beers every Thursday, new beers every Thursday.
Okay.
But it kind of depends on when we kick a beer, we actually run out of beer, we throw another beer right behind it. So
got it.
We're looking at every 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay,
roughly.
Cool. Well, appreciate you. Looking forward to supporting you guys. And if there's anything we can do, please let us know.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.